It's a watershed in the long-running battle over the environment and the economy. Years in the making, carbon pricing has begun. But for the government, the fight isn't getting any easier. Despite hopes, the start of the scheme would allay concerns about its impact. Ministers are throwing themselves at the sales pitch, the Prime Minister included. But Julia Gillard is also juggling an important visit from the Indonesian President, Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono. Clarke reports from Canberra.
It's quite a change of pace for Julia Gillard.
How are you?
I'm very well, President.
Thank you.
Swapping combat in Canberra for dignitaries in Darwin. The Indonesian President and senior ministers are visiting Australia for bilateral talks. The visit kicked off with a hefty present, Australia giving Indonesia 4 of its older heavy lift planes for use in emergencies and natural disasters.
It's also, of course, very important that not only does Australia have a capacity to render humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, but that also we help Indonesia to lift its own capability and capacity.
We hope that this not only the ceremony that symbolises the presentation of the 4 Hercules C-130, but also more than that, further to strengthening the cooperation between 2 governments.
The crucial talks between Julia Gillard and Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono take place tomorrow. At the official state dinner tonight, the Prime Minister spoke of a stable and mature relationship.
Some of the issues for tomorrow are hard. Terrorism and drugs, people smuggling, natural disasters management, threats as difficult as any in our shared history. It's a remarkable tribute to the relationship between our nations that now, when we are faced by these hard issues, we turn towards each other rather than turning away.
One of those hard issues is asylum seekers. Boats are departing Indonesia for Australia on almost a daily basis.
I think it's underappreciated the number of successful disruption events that occur through close cooperation between the relevant authorities in Australia and Indonesia working closely together.
The government is looking to the opposition, not Australia's northern neighbour, to do something about it.
Let's be frank about this. The work that our law enforcement authorities do, Australian and Indonesian, is a bit like putting your thumb on the end of a hose. If you want to stop people from transiting through Asia, through Indonesia, to try and get to Australia, you've got to turn the tap off.
It will be a brief respite for Julia Gillard from the arduous task of selling the government's carbon tax.
It's because it's the right thing to do for our nation's future.
It's a task that's getting harder and harder. The latest opinion poll shows support dropping to a new low, with just 1 in 3 backing the carbon tax. Labor is now relying on the passage of time to assuage voters' concerns.
I think we will see people in the months to come working out what carbon pricing is meaning for them and working out what it is meaning for the nation.
The opposition is sticking to its well-honed strategy.
My pledge in blood, as I've described it, with the Australian people is that there will be no carbon tax under a government I lead.
And the government is looking increasingly desperate.
The people of Whyalla are saying, no Whyalla wipeout there on my TV, no Whyalla wipeout there on my TV, no Whyalla wipeout there on my TV.
The carbon tax show from the government and the opposition will continue to roll into towns around the country for the next few weeks. But while the government's time is taken up with the carbon tax and the asylum seeker issue, there's no shortage of other policy problems the government needs to tackle. A report handed to government today raises the need for careful infrastructure planning to support the $500 billion of investment flowing into coal, iron ore and liquid natural gas developments.
If you don't have the infrastructure in place side by side with the investment, you lose market share, which is what in essence happened during the last resources boom.
The Resources Minister and former trade union boss is warning that workers can't be complacent either.
I think there's a message to all of us, including some elements of the union movement. If you're not very careful, current members will do exceptionally well, but future members in 10 and 20 years' time will miss out.
The issue will be looked at as part of the government's review of Fair Work Australia, a battle for another day. Clarke, Late Line.